down the street is what there is. What you see with your eyes is all that there is. But as we hear in this chapter summary that is just now coming on the big screen, our perspective as perspective devotees of Krishna needs to be broadened considerably, because reality is much bigger than we are. We're very small. Our problem is that we think we're real big. At one time, Srila Prabhupada, early on in Los Angeles, he was talking to one of his then very competent managers, Tamal Krishna, in Los Angeles, and he was showing him the cover of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can see all these spiritual planets. Each one of these spiritual planets is much bigger than all of the material universes put together, and Krishna is there in each one of them. And the biggest planet is Goloka Vrindavan, which is bigger than all the spiritual planets. And down in this little corner, there's this thing called the material world, this little tiny thing which contains unlimited universes. And in each one of those universes, there's unlimited planets. And in each one of those planets, there's unlimited living beings. Practically unlimited real estate. And on one of those tiny planets, in one of those tiny universes, there's this country, the United States. And in that little chunk of land called the United States, there's one little state called California. And in that little state, there's a city called Los Angeles. And in that city called Los Angeles, there's also unlimited living beings. And among those unlimited living beings, there's one Tamal Krishna. And he thinks he is very important. That's funny. So, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. So there's sufficient microphones, people can read the paragraphs of the chapter summary.
This chapter is chiefly devoted to describing the essential nature and glories of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. Lord Sri Krishna is the absolute personality of Godhead, and his first expansion in a form for pastimes is Sri Balaram.
Beyond the limitation of this material world is the spiritual sky, Paravyoma, which has many spiritual planets, the supreme of which is called Krishnaloka. Krishnaloka, the abode of Krishna, has three divisions, which are known as Dwarka, Mathura, and Gokula. In that abode, the personality of Godhead expands himself into four plenary portions: Krishna, Balaram, Pradyumna, the transcendental Cupid, and Aniruddha. They are known as the original quadruple forms.
In Krishna Loka is a transcendental place known as Shri Tampradipa or Vrindavana. Below Krishna Loka in the spiritual sky are the Vakunta planets. On each Vakunta planet, a four-headed Narayana expansion from the first quadruple manifestation is present. The personality of Godhead, known as Sri Balaram, in Krishna Loka is the original Sankirasana, attracting deity. And from this Sankarasana expands another Sankarasana called Maha Sankarasana. It resides in one of the Vakunta planets by his internal potency. Maha Sankarasana maintains the transcendental existence of all the planets and the spiritual sky, where all the living beings are eternally liberated souls. The influence of the material energy is conspicuous there by its absence. On those planets, the second quadruple manifestation is present.
Outside of the Vaikuntha planets is the impersonal manifestation of Sri Krishna, which is known as Brahmaloka. On the other side of Brahmaloka is the spiritual Karma Samudra, or casual ocean. The material energy exists on the other side of the casual ocean. Causal.
People sometimes say it's casual because the boy's lying down.
Causal ocean, without touching it. And the causal ocean is Mahavishnu, the original Purusha expansion from Sankarsana. Mahavishnu places his glance over material energy, and by a reflection of his transcendental body, He amalgamates himself within the material elements.
As the source of the material elements, the material energy is known as the pradhana, and as the source of the manifestations of the material energy is known as maya. But material nature is inert in that she has no independent power to do anything. She is empowered to make the cosmic manifestation by the glance of Mahavishnu. Therefore, the material energy is not the original cause of the material manifestation. Rather, the transcendental glance of Mahavishnu over material nature produces the cosmic manifestation.
Mahavishnu again enters every universe as the reservoir of all living entities, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. From Garbhodakashayi Vishnu expands Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, the supersoul of every living entity. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu also has his own Vaikuntha planet in every universe, where he lives as a supersoul or supreme controller of the universe. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu reclines in the midst of the watery portion of the universe and generates the first living creature of the universe. Brahma. The imaginary universal form is a partial manifestation of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu.
On the Vaikuntha planet in every universe is an ocean of milk, and within the ocean is an island called Svetadvipa, where Lord Vishnu lives. Therefore, this chapter describes two, how do you pronounce that? Svetadvipa. The one in the abode of Krishna and the other.
Yeah.
I think you went too. You scrolled too far.
Yeah, and the other in the ocean. No?
And the other, the ocean of milk in every universe. This fit up deep in the abode of Krishna is identical with Vrindavana Dhamma, which is the place where Krishna appears himself to display his loving pastimes. In the Svet Tapi, within every universe is a Sesha form of Godhead who serves Vishnu by assuming the form of his umbrella, slippers, conch, pillows, garments, residence, sacred thread, throne, and so on.
Lord Vadideva is Krishna, and Krishna Loka is Nityananda Prabhu. Therefore, Nityananda Prabhu is the original Sankarsana and Mahasankarsana, and that's.
There's not room, right?
You're too far. You went too far.
Okay, and his expression as the Purushas in the universes are planetary expansions of Nityananda Prabhu.
In this chapter, the author has described the history of his leaving home for a personal pilgrimage to Vrindavan and his achieving all success there. In this description, it is revealed that the author's original paternal home and birthplace were in the district of Katwa and the village of Jamatapura, which is near Naihati. Krishnadas, Kaviraj's brother, invited Sri Minaketana Ramadas, a great devotee of Lord Nityananda, to his home. But a priest named Gunarnava Mishra did not receive him well, and Krishnadas Kaviraj, Goswami's brother, not recognizing the glories of Lord Nityananda, also took sides with the priest. Therefore, Ramdas became sorry, broke his flute, and went away. This was a great disaster for the brother of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. But on that very night, Lord Nityananda Prabhu himself graced Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in a dream and ordered him to leave on the next day for Vrindavan.
Thank you. Om Gyanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Vipasindubhya Evcha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I wanted to read that chapter summary just because it can they can expand our view of reality, of our place in reality. I remember when I was growing up, I was taught about God, went to church, but now in retrospect, it seems to me that my ideas of God were very vague, very general. Just that there was something controlling everything, and you didn't know who he was or what he did on weekends or anything like that, or what he looked like, what to speak of. But here, we're hearing about these personalities, plural, who are all personalities of God, and they all have personality, as we come to find out. We just heard a little bit of the narrative there of this devotee, Miniketana Ramdas, who was so upset that he broke his flute, ran out of the house. And what kind of people break their instruments and run out of the house? There must be something going on behind the scenes that we're not privy to. Largely in the Western world. So what is that? And who are these personalities? And why is the emphasis so much that we hear about the supreme personality of Godhead? You know, God being just a very kind of vague general term, but who's this personality? And the more I've been hearing about Lord Nityananda all week, preparing to come here and share something with you all, I'm hearing about Lord Nityananda, and he's just a personality of God who's really hard to understand in a lot of ways. Even the people who were very close to him during the time of his manifest activities would sometimes think, do you really have to do that? Is that what we're going to do? Like, for example, he's the sort of personality, like right now, people come to Krishna lunch. Maybe they have some previous taste for Krishna lunch, or they just hungry, or they want to bargain, or they're a vegetarian, they want to try anything out. And sometimes those people come here. So that's awesome that we're here for them, that those people, the select group of intelligent people want to have prasadam and come here to the temple. But there's another group of people that you don't find at Krishna lunch, you don't find at the temple, and what you do is you see them whatever the rowdiest redneck bar in Gainesville is on a Friday, Saturday night, that's where those people are. And they're trying to start a fight because that's the kind of people they are. You know, maybe I grew up knowing people like this, trying to avoid them best I could. But that's the sort of people that Lord Nityananda went after. It's like, I'm going to preach to those guys. If I can get them to chant Hare Krishna, then we're really doing something. And the people that were around Nityananda Prabhu was like, do we really have to go there and talk to those people? I mean, I'm not advocating that we, go there to find the rowdiest redneck bar in Gainesville. But the idea is that Nityananda Prabhu was doing that not just because he himself felt a need to associate with rowdy rednecks, but because he had such an intense love of God that he wanted to share it with anyone, and he considered it a challenge to share it with the people who he thought would be most of a challenge to get over their misconceptions, fueled by numerous ears, and that's what his MO was in spreading Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's approach was slightly different. He would go to the educated people, the philosophers, and the Mayavadi scholars, and philosophically try to engage with them. Nityananda Prabhu did not want to have anything to do with those people. He was a whole different manifestation of the outreach idea. And that whole manifestation of the outreach idea is why we're all sitting here now today, because that is the mood of outreach, literally outreach, that the whole disciplic succession coming from Nityananda Prabhu was full of. And it wasn't just because they were naturally or necessarily adventure seekers, but they had such love for God, and specifically the personality of God, that they wanted to share that at all costs with whomever they could, wherever they could. And that's why Prabhupada decided to come to New York City, as opposed to just try to continue in India, where he was getting basically a lukewarm response there from people who, it's like, we're heading in a different direction, you're old-fashioned, and we'll see you later. But he went and he cultivated a whole different group because he had that mentality. And this is the Nityananda mentality. He was speaking, where was this now? Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was speaking in Columbus, Ohio in 1968. He had a program there with Allen Ginsberg, who was a famous poet at that time. And thousands of students crammed into this university hall. And Prabhupada was really being very strong with them. He's saying, you're teaching what you do not know. You're teaching love of God. And the churches here in your country, as far as I've seen, people go there and they say, Lord, give us our daily bread. And he said, this is not love of God, this is love of bread. And the students were like, yeah, love of God, it's better than love of bread. And this sort of love, this intensity of love, is really what is being taught here by Nityananda Prabhu. And if there's any trace of love of bread or love of whatever it may be, along with motivation for love of God, that's got to eventually slough off. It's got to eventually go, or else you won't actually get the love of God, which, as we say sometimes in the morning, is the ultimate goal of this chanting, because there are so many things that we might love or want or think that are good. Like, I want love of God. I'd also like to have a decent job. I want love of God. I'd also like to have a decent cushion for retirement. I want love of God. I'd just also like to have, health insurance and 401k and a really good-looking spouse. I want love of God. I also want a nice family. The list is maybe long, and that's in all of us because we're conditioned that way. I tell people I grew up in a family of pure devotees of Santa Claus, where the idea is that if you're good, you get stuff, and that is sort of built into even the ideas that I grew up hearing in Protestant churches as a kid. That's very strongly ingrained. If you're good, you'll go to heaven. But this whole idea that's being presented by Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this idea of love of God goes way, way beyond that. Just imagine the kind of love, having the kind of love for the personality of God that we would have for some really attractive person, in our own life, that we feel really romantically drawn to and can't stop thinking about them and would do anything for them. I grew up hearing a song called I Would Die For You, having that sort of intensity of attraction and love for another person. That's what's being, that's what's tried to be communicated here. Right in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, one of our most elementary, you could say, literatures, Prabhupada's trying to get that across here. He says, he's talking about love of God. He said, how is this possible? The Acharyas give the following example. If a married woman is attached to another man, or if a man has attachment for a woman other than his wife, then the attachment is to be considered very strong. One with such an attachment is always thinking of the loved one. The wife who is thinking of her lover is always thinking of meeting him, even while she is carrying out her household chores. In fact, she carries out her household work even more carefully so her husband will not suspect her attachment. Similarly, we should always remember the supreme lover, Sri Krishna, and at the same time perform our material duties very nicely. A strong sense of love is required here. If we have a strong sense of love for the Supreme Lord, then we can discharge our duty and at the same time remember him. But we have to develop that sense of love. He's trying to get that idea of the sense of love. And you cannot have a sense of love for something higher than what you can imagine if you're maintaining your sense of love for things that are on a lower level. And that's why Nityananda Prabhu and all of the people coming throughout history who are representatives of Nityananda Prabhu not only give the instructions or the manual of operations or the troubleshooting guides in the form of the Shastras and authorized literatures, but they also give themselves as living examples and guides for all of us who need to see that example. How do you do this? How is love of God possible when I love this, that, and the other thing so very much? How am I supposed to get out of my own head and go beyond that? And so the Nityananda Prabhu is considered the original guru of everyone. There's a prayer, it's Nityananda Jagat Guru Tava Rupe Mahavishnu Anante Shainam Kuru. It's a prayer that we say to the deity of Lord Nityananda before he goes to bed at night. You're the guru of the whole universe. Now, please have a nice rest. And so the principle is there, the personality is there, and that whole disciplic succession that we're told about, that we experience on the ground level, is the word parampara, the way of receiving knowledge, means one after the other. It starts with Krishna, starts with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it starts with Nityananda Prabhu, and it comes from person to person to person to person down to us. And so what we need, the guidance that we need in order to experience this love of God, which supposedly we want, is there's a whole program of activity. And there's a means of guiding us there. And that means of guidance is what's being offered beyond the books. It's like if you can audit, you can go and sit in a class at UF and not pay the tuition and not matriculate, not get a grade, not get a degree. You can take the class, you can read the textbook, you can hang out. But the professors there, they're paid a certain amount, and they've only got a certain amount of hours in the day. And they're going to give extra attention to people who are paying the money and who maybe stay after and really try to show some interest in the subject. So that kind of interest is what's needed for us to really become part of this line of teachings coming down from Nityananda Prabhu. It's not just an official thing. Prabhupada said to one of his disciples, it's not a mechanical thing. If you love me, I will love you. And that love is what is required. Love for, first of all, love for the subject matter. I'm grateful that my Guru Maharaj was a lover of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He loved to teach the Bhagavatam, and I feel like I've gotten some little bit of that from him. But that's the real gift of getting things from person to person to person to us, is that if we're fortunate enough to have some interest, and that is like a little spark that gets fanned by the encouragement of our spiritual guide, mentor, authority, spiritual master, whomever, whatever level we are at, then we can experience that. And the more we experience that, the more we want to give that to others, which is the whole mood of Chaitanya Nitai. And that's why we're celebrating today's appearance of Lord Nityananda. It's not just an esoteric thing, some guy 500 years ago in some country that I've barely heard of, it was his birthday. What does that mean to me? This is what it means to me. This is what it's about. And I'd be very happy to hear from any and all of you, because there's so many more things that can be said in so much little time before breakfast, which is, of course, very important. Yes, sir. Hare Krishna.
So, Nityananda is Balaram,
Yeah.
and Balaram is Ananta Shesha.
Yeah.
And so, but this is my question, right? Is Balaram individual, or is Balaram also Krishna? Are they one, or are they individual?
Yes, and yes. Okay. There's billions of ways to answer that. I'll answer it the best way I can right now. And you'll get a better answer tomorrow from somebody else, but this is what it is today. Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a different personality of Krishna. He's not one and different from Krishna in the way that table is one and different from Krishna. He's not like Krishna's energy, which is also Krishna, but also not Krishna. Balaram is Krishna, and he is Krishna, except he's Balaram. And he looks different, he's got a different mood, he's more likely to bust heads than Krishna in a lot of situations you'll hear about, which I just become thrilled hearing about. And some people may share that love for Balaram. But yeah, he's full-on God. He's full-on Supreme Lord. You don't mess around with Balaram. But he's different from Krishna in the sense that he's got a different complexion, he dresses differently, he's got a different set of girlfriends from Krishna. So it's a very complicated social structure going on in the spiritual world. The Brihat Bhagavatamrita, I recommend you read that if you want to hear a little expanded view of the social dynamics.
Sonam Bonum, whatever, right? That's what it's called, 10th canto.
Yeah.
But also, like, so Krishna is experiencing the pastimes from multiple angles, from having different personalities around him, which is himself.
Yeah.
So, like, Radharani's like that too, right?
Radharani is Krishna's internal potency.
Yeah.
She's specifically Krishna's closest, greatest devotee. Also his internal energy by which he enjoys. She's that in person. So she's another category of person. She's not in the category of Ishwara or controller, but she's there to give love to Krishna to the max. And that's what Krishna wants more than anything. But that's a whole other topic that we don't have time for. Yeah. Good question. Thank you. Hi, Krishna.
Sorry, Bo. I had a question really quick.
Do you need a microphone?
I don't know. I think I can talk kind of loud.
We can hear you, but I don't know if the satellite TV is picking this up or not.
Are you Bo? Okay. I was wondering about. I was thinking when you were talking in the beginning about Nityananda, he was the kind of person who, he was like on a street mission preaching, and often he was the person begging Lord Chaitanya to be merciful to the devotees. And so I wondered, maybe you could speak a little bit about how we can learn from that example, because sometimes some of us fall more to the Lord Chaitanya side. We want to hang out with the highly elevated Brahmins, and then some of us fall more to the Nityananda side. And so how can we support each other more in that relationship instead of being driven apart by it?
The more we chant Hare Krishna together and appreciate our individualities and varieties of personalities. I mean, when I first came to Krishna temple, back in the previous century, I was surprised that I found myself hanging around with a group of people that I never might hang around with otherwise. But we had this shared interest in something very, very deep, very high. And I thought, well, this is interesting. This is very important. It's like even deeper than family. Because family, you've got some shared, DNA or whatever. But with the devotees, you share an affinity for something even more binding and strong than DNA, which is the spiritual DNA. And like you say, some people are in this mood, some people are in that mood. The spiritual world is a big place. It's a really big place. You can choose your circle of friends. In Gainesville, maybe the Pickens aren't a little bit more slim than they would be in Goloka Vrindavan, as far as choosing your comfortable social milieu. But like you say, some people are more in the Chaitanya mood, which, for heaven's sake, that's pretty good, and some people are more in the Nityananda mood. But the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, what did they do together? They chant Hare Krishna together. So I experience that every time I come here. All these vast, variety of people, very dynamic, very individual, a lot of energy, a lot of different ideas. But let's get together and chant Hare Krishna. We can agree on that. We can agree on taking prasadam. We can agree on the basic need for Krishna consciousness in our own lives and the joy that we get when we're able to relate to somebody who's maybe not as far along the way as we are, so that those basic principles I think we all share very strongly. And the more we're able to appreciate what we have in those categories, and then we'll feel like, yeah, you go do your thing, I'll do my thing, and we'll see who does something. It becomes like a friendly competition. I have friends who present Krishna consciousness in their own way, and I think, boy, he's really doing something. I got to do something different, So it becomes like that. It's not at all like, I can't be with these people. These people just rub me the wrong way.
Great.
Is that?
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Great.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm just stretching.
Okay. We can do that. Advaitacharya Prabhu, would you like to say something?
Thank you. This text 1 says that by his will, even a fool can understand his identity. How would you explain his will? How does that look like? How does it manifest today for me?
Yeah, Krishna tells Arjuna in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, touch Trinu, just here, right? He doesn't say first take philosophy 101, then progress, do your sophomore year, build up a certain grade point average, and then get your undergraduate degree, and then, get your master's work together, and then get your PhD, and then I'll tell you something. And then maybe you'll understand. He just says, just here, right up front. And that's possible if you've got some eagerness or interest in any subject. Somebody can tell you something. If you're interested in it, you'll learn it, and you'll know it, and you'll remember it, and it'll make a difference for you. So it really has to do with a person's interest, whether they're intelligent or non-intelligent. If you're interested in something, you'll learn it. You'll be able to learn it just by Krishna's will. He can tell you, because what we hear is that the Lord is in all of our hearts. So it's almost as if the situation is that of having advanced permissions on a website to do certain things that you couldn't just do as a visitor. If you sign in as a guest, you can check out and you can look at the web pages and stuff. But if you're an administrator on that web page, or if you've got some higher level of access, which you can get only by the web administrator, right? Then you can do things that the ordinary schmo can only do with their credit card or whatever. So when he says by his will, by his will, even a fool can understand his identity. If someone's got some interest, if got some genuine interest, I'm suffering in this world. I need something more than what's being offered anywhere else. I need something, I don't know what to call it. I mean, you might not even know the word transcendental. Maybe too many syllables for you, but you need something more. Then you're going to go somewhere and try to find that thing. Krishna will find you, and you can just flip that internal switch, and then you'll know. It's as easy as that. It's not like an external thing that you need to have a certain number of diplomas on your wall and be recognized by an ecclesiastical body. No, you just know. It's very straightforward and internal, because Krishna's in our hearts. He's our best friend, and he wants us to be interested in him. And if there's some interest, guess what? He's right there. He's like, hello. It happens automatically. I was reading another place. I've been reading the introduction to Bhagavad Gita a lot lately, because everything is contained in that one little, introduction. But he's saying it doesn't require intelligence. You just accept what Krishna says. And if you do that, then you're just as good as Arjuna. It's really amazing. Yeah.
A follow-up. That would work for a fool. There's something that is more unfortunate than a fool. It's a heartbroken individual that has been misguided, abused, and consequently rebellious against any authority whatsoever. What is the hope for those today?
I know someone like that.
In the light of the unlimitedly merciful Nityananda.
Yeah. Well, when we say unlimitedly merciful Nityananda, that means that by his, if we're talking about God, first of all, that means omnipotent. That means he can do anything he wants at any time, with anyone, for any reason. He can just do it. He's got connections. So, that being said, he can reach out to someone however they need to be reached out to. Like I said, I know someone in that category that you're describing. And in my experience, the way to reach that person is to A, develop the mood of Lord Nityananda to whatever degree you can yourself, and then just keep reaching out to that person, reaching out to that person, reaching out to that person. Because, I mean, you look at the way that the Kali Yuga is moving along and how much fighting and enmity there is between people, between groups of people. Things are not going in a good way. So how much of a relief is it when anybody sees anybody who's acting piously, who's acting for reasons other than purely selfish and opportunistic reasons? It's like, oh my God, that's a nice person, you know? And so the process of Krishna consciousness is for us to become the kind of people that other people look at and say, oh, wow, I want to be like that. Or even if I can't be like that, I'm glad somebody's like that, because as soon as I pick up, the news media, I see just the opposite. I just want to kill these people. It makes me really depressed. So we have to become the kind of people that Lord Nityananda can use to reach those people who are heartbroken, who are abused, who don't trust anyone. That's sort of our lot. All of us. This is like closing time at the redneck bar of the material world. It's Kali Yuga, and everybody who's here is bitter. We've been around the block a number of times. We've been let down. We're pissed off. We need some special handling, and that's what the Lord Nityananda mood is expected to address. Thank you. Thank you. Shruti Prabhu, something?
Thank you. No, I appreciate that point about Nityananda's mood. Yeah, he really went for not just, we often say the fallen, but also, people who, as you said, disillusioned by the world, hurt or broken. So that's really following Nityananda's mood and really reaching out. And yes, true, especially in today's age, there's so many people who are hurt by different ways and need all kinds of help. So when we do that, show that compassion to others, we're acting as Lord Nityananda's agents, and it empowers us to give more and more. And it's such a beautiful thing to be able to represent Krishna and to represent Lord Nityananda, and because people can feel it. They feel it in their relationship with Krishna awakens. It's appreciated.
Thank Krishna. Something else?
Do you have any unfinished business from last time?
Oh yeah, just on the principle of Lord Nityananda as the guru of everyone. We were speaking, I think, way back in October, in the middle of October, we were talking about what role the regulative principles of Krishna consciousness play in our lives and how important they are, and were we really expected to follow them, or to what degree we're expected to follow them. And I was thinking about this, and if I can just briefly synopsize it, was that Nityananda Prabhu and his followers, his crew, his team, coming from his mode of thinking and outreach, they wanted the whole world to become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada was happy when anybody would chant Hare Krishna for any reason. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta would look at some article that was critical of he himself and say, how many times did they say Krishna in this diatribe? Oh, several. That's good, And Prabhupada was the same way. He wanted everyone to become Krishna conscious. And to that end, he was very liberal in spreading Krishna consciousness. He wanted everyone to become Krishna's devotee. When it came to becoming his student, to becoming his disciple, then he made things a little bit more finely tuned, because if somebody's showing that level of interest, and that means you want to really make advancement, that's like I was saying, the difference between auditing a university course and actually paying the money, doing the coursework, and staying after and talking to the teacher privately and showing some genuine interest. When Prabhupada saw that somebody was exhibiting that kind of interest, then he would say, okay, we have these books. You should read these books. And here's these books. Understand these books. Read my books. He would constantly be reading Prabhupada's letters every day. And practically he would sign off every letter. I'm hoping that you are chanting the 16 rounds, following the regulative principles, and reading my books. It's like standard protocol for if you want to become my student, if you want to maintain that level of interest. So he may have said certain things to people in general about what it means to follow the program of Krishna consciousness. But if you showed that level of interest and wanted to become his student or his disciple, he would be very clear, you should not do this, you should do this, you should rather do this. And he made it very, very clear. And sometimes he was encouraged by the level of intensity of interest increasing, and sometimes he was a little discouraged. You were a senior person, why are you, not following, not reading, not chanting, So that's in general what I wanted to say, that there's one mode of like absolute and all-encompassing, all-embracing outreach, like, come on everybody, chant Hare Krishna, take prasadam, it'll be good for you. But then if you want to be actually part of the parampara system, if you want to be a disciple, that means, the kind of word would imply discipline. And that's required of you as a disciple. Otherwise, you can chant Hare Krishna, go back to Godhead, no problem, done. But as a student, if you really want to become qualified to become a teacher yourself, and to be recognized by the session, then you got to up your game. That's all. Yes.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for class. I was reflecting, Lord Nityananda is so merciful and outreach driven. And we as Krishna House were outreach also, like through the programs, through Krishna Lunch. And I was wondering if you can speak a little bit about how that would please Lord Nityananda to make it relevant to all of us, like how is prasadam distribution, like all those things, like, is it pleasing to him? How much is it pleasing to him? To kind of inspire us to continue our service.
I think you can feel it. I don't think it's anything that has to be, you don't have to be told, like if you're eating some nice sabji and you know it's nice and you just know it. And you can feel it when Krishna is pleased. Your relationships are pleasing and everything seems just nice. You know what it's like to be in a real ripping kirtan where you just forget about everything else. That's the thing. You just forget about everything else that you might have wanted to accomplish or achieve or impress other people or whatever desires we have. To the degree that those things, you just forget about them because your service, distributing prasadam or kirtan or talking to students or whatever it may be, you just get so much juice from that you just forget everything else about your own agenda. That's kind of the test. That's been the test for me. Yasya prasada bhagavad prasada, yasya prasada nagati kutopi. And life becomes very hard when you shove that desire to please Lord Nityananda aside. It's like, well, what about me? What about me? What about me? My needs, my desires, my priorities, my agenda. What about that? It's like, okay, you can try for that, but will you be happy? Flip a coin, You don't know. But it's so easy to please Lord Nityananda. Just do everything you mentioned, and you can feel it. It's not always easy because we do have a conditioned mind. Sometimes it shows itself, like, what about me? What about mine? It's cold. I don't want to come to the morning room. Whatever it may be, but, overcome that. That's true also in any kind of, strength conditioning. You make advancement when you do things that you don't want to do. You don't feel it. You feel like, that's the way you feel. But afterwards, you feel happy because you can feel, okay, I've left some of those things behind that are pulling me down, bringing me down. And so many of the things that we count as among our dearest, most cherished desires for ourselves, they're guaranteed to cause us a whole bucket of sorrow at some point, and you just like gradually let them go. It's like, you don't need it. You just need to chant. You just need to help other people chant. Here's the prasadam. Your life is better now. And it'll just keep on getting better if you just keep on doing this. You know? You don't have to get too complicated about it. Hare Krishna. We should probably stop now, right?
There's no breakfast.
There's no breakfast,
But fast.
but you fast on the Dwadasi for the Nityananda Trayodashi.
We switched it around.
But I was told not. Okay. But we can keep going. Somebody, Chandrasekhar, something from your side?
So you spoke so eloquently with such purity and deep realization. I don't know what to say, but you reminded me of when you were speaking about Lord Nityananda's mood of just simply thinking constantly of the welfare of suffering humanity. You reminded me of one of the early times, and this is I'm not making publicity for Nityananda Maharaj here. It just happened to be an anecdote that I lived in, in his presence that illustrates a point, which illustrates your point. I was, a young new devotee, and there was a darshan at his place, and I always remember he sat down, or he was sitting down, and he said something that I think very much echoes your point, and I think illustrates Lord Nityananda's mood in a sort of like he said, what else is there for us to do in this stupid or ridiculous material world than to preach? Like, there's nothing else here to do. There's absolutely nothing else. It's just like, that's the only thing we can do, or we should do in this sort of, ridiculous material world. In that sense, in that mood he was speaking. And so the point, I think the theme which you brought up so nicely is Lord Nityananda's mood to help others. And on this day, I think if we're serious, we should pray to Nityananda Prabhu that we can somehow receive a drop of his mercy so we can become the best instruments in his hands to spread the mission of Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Krishna.
I wanted to sort of answer Nandanapriya's question about making relevance to Krishna lunch, just with my own personal example. Like, I was the kind of person that Lord Nityananda would certainly be preaching to when I was going to school here 25 years ago. And the only reason I'm here today is because of the Krishna lunch program. So, like, the mercy that comes from that would certainly be pleasing to Lord Nityananda. Like, it works. That's all I can say about that.
Jai.
Anasuya, did she get?
Yeah.
Are you going?
You want to share what you shared last night also about prasad? The power of prasad?
I can share about the power of prasad distribution quickly. My job used to be that I worked on college campuses and I followed around big music tours, distributing the knowledge of vegetarianism via People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. So I worked for PETA, and I was doing PETA Sankirtan basically. I was like harassing people and getting them to give me their contact info. And there were two brahmacharis. I didn't know they were brahmacharis. I thought they were very strange. They wore all orange and big straw hats, and they had wheelie backpacks. And I grew up in the US where wheelie backpacks are very uncool. And so when I saw the wheelie backpack, I knew I had to be really nice to these guys because probably everyone's bullying them. I was like, oh, I should just like, they're probably not that cool, we're like with all these rock and roll guys. And
That was on a work tour, right?
yeah, I was on work tour. It was a good time. And Nityananda Prabhu, he started talking to me, and just in passing. And then he would bring us some vegetarian vegan cookies. And my boss, I didn't tell you guys this part last night, but my boss at PETA, he said, whatever you do not eat those Hare Krishna cookies. He said they make those in their bathtub in their hotel room every night. And I was really confused because I was probably the only person on work tour that had never made a cookie before. And I was like, you can't just make cookies in a bathtub, in an oven, in a mixer, like. And so I would take all the cookies, and on work tour, part of my deal for work was that every day I got 6 free beers. And so I was living on 6 free beers and Mahaprasad. And I had no idea. And I had this like gallon-sized Ziploc bag full of cookies that I would live off of all week. And then the Hare Krishnas would come back and I was like, oh, great. But I never talked to them about Krishna. He tried to talk to me about the Bhagavad Gita one time, and I was intoxicated. And I remember he said, this is where I first got the Bhagavad Gita. And I looked into Gretchen's eyes and I said, I don't know what that means. And he was like, okay, have a great day. And so then years later, I was living in Philadelphia. I had a nice job. I was doing well for myself. I wasn't working for PETA anymore. I was just kind of living my grown-up life now. And this strange lady approached me on the street in the crosswalk in Philadelphia. And she said, I have books about spirituality and yoga. And I thought that this was a crazy lady. Like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna help her across the street. I'm gonna carry on with my day. So I was like, all right, let's go see your books. And so I kind of like walked her across the street, and when I saw the books, I was like, oh, you're like the cookie people. And she was like, what's the cookie people? And I was like, no, it's fine. Like, here, just take my money. This is like all the money I have. I was like, here, just have the money. And she was like really shocked because I know now after going on Stanford Prom, people don't come back. Like, they're like, oh, I'll be right back. They don't come back. And they don't just give you all the money out of their wallet for no reason. And the magical part for me was that right before I had crossed the road and met her, I had been on the telephone and I said, we should go check out that place in Fishtown. There's that sign, free vegan dinner. And I thought I would have to watch the animal rights film, which I had already watched 1 billion of. So I was like, oh, no big deal, I'll just go get my free dinner. And when this book distributor 5 minutes later is talking to me, I said, okay, so if I like your books, how do I get a hold of you? And she said, oh, it's right here, it's the address. And inside they had the book stamped. And it was the free vegan dinner address. And I was like, all right, fine, I'll read your weird books, I'll eat your weird food, we'll see what happens. And so then I just, there was a preaching center in Philadelphia, Mantra Lounge. It was Deborah Maria Swami's project. And it was really, the book distributors there and the young people, it was really empowering. And I met so many different kinds of people in that setting. There was a kid there who was a physics student at Penn, and then there were girls who had come from Canada to sing kirtan and were doing purely book distribution, and then a Western style teaching program like Krishna House kind of a few nights a week. And it went from me coming on to one kirtan to the point where I had engineered my whole day around going just to be around them for a little while. And at the same time, I was still drinking coffee, smoking cigarettes, and chanting Hare Krishna, with sincerity. And that's the only reason that I've gotten to the point I'm at right now, is because no one beat me down for it. And even now I was thinking about, while we were all talking about this subject, I was thinking about rescue dogs. Devotees are really opposed to dogs. And it's such a bummer because dogs are a really good learning tool. A rescue dog that's had a really bad life can become very enthusiastic and happy in the right family if given time to acclimate. And I always tell, I have a very good Vaishnav husband now, and I always tell him I'm like a pound puppy. You need to keep me on a choke chain and a tight leash, and I need to be told sometimes not to eat the trash. Sometimes I need someone to tell me, don't sniff that, just come on. And so I'm really grateful because if it wasn't for cookies, it's funny to say that, but if it wasn't for someone seeing me in a very degraded position and saying, I bet she likes cookies, then I never would have, And that tends to be the way with a pound puppy too, right? So you give them some treats gently from the hand, and then slowly they'll eat from the bowl. And so it's the same with people. That's all. Thanks for listening to me. Thanks for having me.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. All glories to the Crown people.